Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gathered around the virtual water cooler to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, and all sorts of good stuff. And it is Thursday. That means we are lucky enough to have under the same roof. First of all, starting over here, we've got Erin Cummings. Erin, how you doing?
I'm fantastic. And by the way, I finally saw Aladdin. I loved it. Yay! It just melted my heart in a beautiful way. And Jafar will be back for the sequel. Someone's gonna rub that little bottle, and he's gonna come out and cause all sorts of mayhem.
Although, to be clear, they did specify the sequel will not be the Return of Jafar. That won't be.
It's not gonna be Aladdin 2: The Return of Jafar, right? But that doesn't mean that Jafar won't.
Oh no, they've got. I actually really liked him in it. Anyway, also joining us in here today, somebody who also liked Aladdin. Yeah, it's Chris Carr.
Hey everybody, I'm having the best day. Joey Bishop's on my lap. You can't see her; she's out of frame, and it's the greatest. Just sitting here stroking a puppy.
So cozy.
She does. She's very happy.
Hey, listen, guys, we've got a lot of really interesting stuff that we need to talk about here today. One of the things that we're going to be talking about is HBO's got this new show, Minx, coming. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Guess what? We may have thought the Independence Day franchise was dead, but there may actually be a little bit of life left in it. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, we knew it was going to be put on hold, but it looks like his Doc Savage movie is going to be canceled. We'll talk about that. Despite what you're hearing, because it seemed to have been the word that Thor was absolutely not going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Well, Chris Pratt says he may be. That and a few things more. But before we get to those things, we're going to go off the top with a couple of items here. And the first thing we're going to talk about off the top is this. Now, you guys know that one of my favorite movies this year was Knives Out, and it got a well-deserved Best Screenplay nomination. I actually thought maybe it could have, should have, maybe won. But anyway, watched it again the other night because Kaori was over and she hadn't seen it yet. And I love this movie. Now, we also know that a couple of weeks ago they announced that there's going to be follow-up films. They're going to turn this into a franchise, and they have indeed already greenlit the second Knives Out film. So that is on the way. Now, here's the thing, guys. When you look at Knives Out, what you're getting here is a little bit of a fear that you might actually just end up getting a young Indiana Jones. What I fear, and what I do not want in a Knives Out 2 is, let's go into Benoit Blanc's, that's Daniel Craig's character, let's go into his backstory and look into his origins when it's not important, doesn't matter. Well, Rian Johnson actually just came out and put those fears to rest, saying, no, look, these movies are about the mystery. It's about solving the case. That's what this is about. And you only got so much time to do it in a 2-hour movie. And he said, do not worry. We're not going to pull a young Indiana Jones. Not that there's anything wrong with young Indiana Jones, but we're not going to be pulling a young Indiana Jones when it comes to Benoit Blanc and all that kind of stuff. It will still be absolutely, in fact, just him, no backstory, nothing like that, which I think is great. Chris, you saw Knives Out. Mm-hmm. What do you think about this idea about them, not going into backstory, not doing, or do you think maybe they should have gone into his origin stories, or do you just want to keep it focused on the mystery? What do you think?
I don't want to know anything about him. I don't want to know a single thing. I wanted that classic detective story where he just comes in, does his work, and all we know, he has a brilliant mind for crime solving. I'm super excited about them doing more mysteries with him because I really enjoy this character, and I think he did an excellent job. And I love, again, like we've said on the show before, those kind of Agatha Christie, really like fun, pulpy, noir, theatrical stories. And I think having more of him and less of his background is the way to go. I mean, do you want to know anything else about him, Erin? Like, are you interested in a backstory? I just want to know about more murders.
I completely agree with both of you. There's no reason to know anything. In fact, what I would love to see is in the second Knives Out for Benoit Blanc to come in with not a Southern accent, but some other completely different accent. And never once mention it. Like, don't even address it. He just comes in and all of a sudden he's Scottish. He's Daniel Craig. He can do whatever he wants. And I just think that it, like, something ridiculous like that. And I will say this also. I mentioned when we talked about Knives Out before that I would love to see Tim Curry come on. And then someone on Twitter, thank you, pointed out that apparently he had a terrible stroke and he's not doing well. So that's really sad, and sending lots of love to Tim Curry, who has left an incredible legacy and, of course, gave us Clue that I think everybody has been relating this film to. But I would also be really curious to see who people want to see in the next Knives Out.
I mean, because that was one of the hallmarks of the first film, right? Was this incredible ensemble cast. Like it felt like you already put everybody into it. So who are they going after now? That will be interesting to see. Yeah. So I personally like this news. Anyway, the question is, guys, what do you think about this? Do you think moving forward they should get into the background story and origins of Benoit Blanc, or do you just want them to focus on the mystery at hand, kind of like they do with Hercule Poirot? Like they've never, in the Agatha Christie novels, never really went into his past all that much.
No.
So what do you guys think about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's do one more off the top. And the next off the top we're going to cover is this. We all know that Jurassic World 3 is on the way. Now, they did that little teaser short film, like Battle at Big Rock or something like that, a few months ago that I actually thought was really quite good. And I didn't think it was a good idea at the time, but then I watched it, I'm like, okay, this gets me excited for another Jurassic World movie. Then, of course, came the news. The original cast from the original movie all coming back. That got everybody excited. Well, it's gotten everybody so excited that Chris Pratt has come out and said that he's now comparing Jurassic World 3 to Avengers Endgame. He's comparing it to Avengers Endgame. Now, he said the following. This was his quote. He said, "This feels like it. This feels like Avengers Endgame. I'm not allowed to say anything. It's got everybody. It's got pretty much everybody in it. Maybe I just blew it, but I don't care. All the cast from the original Jurassic Park is coming back. It's going to feel very much like how Endgame brought everything together for Marvel." So this, on one hand, this to me is not surprising, nor should it be surprising. Because when you go from the first Jurassic Park movie, which was not, it was meant to be a different kind of movie. Yes, it was adventure and everything, but it also asked, philosophical questions, existential questions. It had moments of horror and whatever. But as the franchise has evolved, it's kind of become a little bit like a comic book movie in some way. And if they decide that they want to go full blown in that direction for a Jurassic World 3, I'm all for it. Now, look. The Jurassic Park movies have not been the greatest films in the world since the first one. I actually think Jurassic World 2 was probably the best Jurassic Park movie we've had since the original Jurassic Park. But still, I mean, the bar has not been high. The bar has not been high. I feel like we say that about a lot of franchises. The bar has not been
Right.
high since the first one. But whatever. But I'll tell you what. We've known for a while that this whole cast was coming back together. I like it. And hearing Chris Pratt goes, this is going to feel like Avengers because we're bringing everybody's coming together. I get kind of a big kick out of it. Aaron, when you hear him talking like this, do you think this is like, oh no, they're going fluff? Or do you think this is exciting? Do you think maybe this is a franchise they just should have given up on a long time ago? What do you think about it?
Anytime that Jeff Goldblum is added, I get excited. Jeff Goldblum can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. I do think that this headline is slightly misleading, though. And I'm really glad that that they clarified it with adding his quote of saying it's going to feel like how they brought everybody back from Avengers Endgame. Because comparing Jurassic 3 to Avengers Endgame, I was like, okay, calm down, Chris Pratt. But I think that he made it very clear, not that he's comparing the two films, but that in the way that Avengers Endgame brought everyone back into the mix and sort of threw the entire cast into the pot. That's what they're doing here. Because I think that coming out the gate and comparing any movie to Avengers Endgame is a very tall order. I would love to see Sam Jackson just say, I want to get these motherfucking dinosaurs out of this motherfucking park. I was not a huge fan of Jurassic World. Loved the original, loved it. And also, Laura Dern is having such a moment right now.
Oh, yeah.
That to hear that she's going to be coming back, I think that they're really going to capitalize on her recent success, her Academy Award win, and all the work that she's been doing in I always want to say Pretty Little Liars. Big Little Lies, excuse me. Very different shows. So I think this is great news. I do feel bad for whoever is the one person that's not included in this after reading this, though, because if I were in the first one, I mean, every actor is probably going, oh my God, we're all not
Somewhere
you.
Wayne Knight is just mortified.
Oh, not you. Step back. So, but it's really good to know that so many great people are going to be coming back again.
What you just said kind of reminded me of, I don't know why, you watch a YouTube video, like I was watching a YouTube video on putting together like a 26 terabyte server. That's what I watch on YouTube.
That's
fun.
what I
Yeah.
watch when
And
I'm bored.
One of the suggested videos in the side was the fact that you know how there's a Saved by the Bell reunion show happening?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but apparently the only cast member they
Screech.
did not know.
What?
Apparently the only cast member. Apparently even at some point he's going to be in there somehow, some way. But the one person they said from the original cast that they just didn't even extend an invite to or have involved at all was the actress who played Lisa. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
Roland tweeted about it last night. I was like,
I-
this is nonsense.
I don't know. I'm watching a video and had her set up a terabyte server, and all of a sudden it's suggesting to me Saved by the Bell reunion.
But that's so weird.
drama.
Like Screech was the one who had like all the
I know, but
drama.
she had a lot of issues. She started suffering some mental health issues and stuff like that. So I don't know what the bottom line is, or if everybody hated her. I don't know. I don't care. I've taken us down the wrong rabbit trail.
Screech,
Let's
I
talk
thought.
about Jurassic World 3. Anyway, one of the things I
Oh,
think
that's
he
what
could-
we were talking
Yeah.
about. I was like, where were we? I have no idea.
I think one of the things that Chris Pratt might also be kind of alluding to is the notion not just of everybody coming back, but maybe kind of a feel of a big final confrontation of all the heroes versus all the villains the movies
Yeah.
have ever known. You know, all the big bad dinosaurs will team up to form their own, Legion of Doom of bad dinosaurs. I don't know what he's going to do about there. But anyway, Chris, you hear this. What do you think about it?
I mean, I'm so glad it got clarified because when you first said this off the top to me, I scoffed and went, okay, Chris Pratt. But this all makes sense. I really hope they all just yell, paleontologists assemble. If they don't, what are we doing here? But I'm really excited about it. Like Aaron said, Laura Dern is having a moment. Bring back sensible hiking boots to this franchise.
Thank you.
Bring
Sensible
back
hiking-
high-waisted shorts. Let's do it.
I can't wait. So the question is, guys, what do you think about Chris Pratt's comments? Probably pretty much in fun. Do you think he might have actually given us just a little bit of a peek into what we might come to expect from Jurassic World 3? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that stuff down and out of the way, let's move on to our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by going over 24/7 to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question and hit submit. It's absolutely free. And once you do, it'll get sent in here, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question as one of our main topics here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Daniel Loop, who writes, so, apparently it sneaked up on us and Sony is moving forward with production on Uncharted in Berlin in 4 weeks, according to Tom Holland. Just one question. Who's the director? Is Travis Knight back on, or someone else altogether? What are your thoughts? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in. And yeah, you know what? Somebody mentioned on one of the viewers mentioned on the show yesterday that, hey, did you hear at the Onward premiere that Tom Holland mentioned that they're going to start shooting Uncharted in 4 weeks? And I remember thinking to myself, really? That's a lot sooner than I was expecting, especially when you consider the fact that Travis Knight departed the project because they said they had to push back start of production for so long, and Travis Knight was kind of the main reason I was getting excited about this movie. And so I said, I don't know if that's completely true. Is it complete? Did he actually say maybe he misspoke? Well, apparently he didn't. These are the actual quotes, and Sony is standing by them. But this is what Tom Holland had to say at the premiere of Onward last night in talking about this. He said, if I'm honest, one of my favorite video games ever is the 4th Uncharted game. That's Thief's End. Unbelievable. And lots of the inspiration from the film has come from that game in particular, Holland said. It was interesting when I sat down with Sony Pictures chairman Tom Rothman, and we were talking about video games, and I was like, oh, I've just finished Uncharted. And he was like, well, why don't you play Nathan Drake? I remember being like, I would do anything to play Nathan Drake. Please, that would be amazing. So yeah, we start shooting in like 4 weeks. Mark Wahlberg is going to be amazing as Sully, which is really still funny and interesting because like 6 years ago or 26 years ago, Mark Wahlberg was actually supposed to play Nathan Drake in an iteration of the movie that obviously never came to be. So he's going to come back and play Sully, and I do believe he's probably going to be pretty awesome in that. So it looks like, yeah, 2 bits of information Tom just gave us. Number 1, that this thing is going to be based, or at least get a lot of its influence from Thief's End, which is incredible. Thief's End is absolutely amazing. Number 2, they are indeed going to be starting in 4 weeks, which raises the question to me, so why the hell did Travis Knight leave? If they're shooting this soon, Why did he go? Like, we all heard that it was the Spider-Man schedule that was going to push back. Was going to push this back. There's no way Tom Holland's going to shoot Spider-Man 3 in the next 3 weeks. That's just not going to happen. So what happened there? Now, as far as who's directing it, the word is that Ruben Fleischer, the guy who directed the first Venom movie, is actually going to be directing this. And that could be very interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where they go with that. So I found that fascinating. Chris, let me ask you, what do you think about the fact that they're going to start shooting this thing in just 4 weeks, and that Thief's End is going to be one of the main kind of influences here? And does it make you look forward to the movie any more or any less?
I mean, I'm honestly kind of confused about the Thief's End thing because, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're more familiar with Uncharted than I am. Isn't that the one where he's talked out of retirement?
Well, that he basically by the end of the game, he's retired.
Yeah.
He kind of retires by the end.
And it has a very nice, peaceful, beautiful ending, which is kind of odd for Uncharted.
Yeah, with this kid and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So that was just the only kind of thing that made me go, wait, what? That's an odd choice. But, I understand that. That means maybe we'll get, the estranged brother in the situation. We'll have some of those elements from that game in there. 4 weeks does seem weird, especially given Knight leaving. And that was something I was super excited about because I loved Kubo and the Two Strings. I loved Bumblebee, and I got really hyped about him being involved in this. I'm sure, though, I loved Venom. I thought it was a fun movie, and I want this to be a fun movie. I said it before when we talked about Uncharted 1,000 years ago. I'm bummed still, and I know I shouldn't be bummed that it's not Nathan Fillion. So what all I want is you guys just give him a cool cameo, throw him in there, make him a baddie, do something. I'm excited about this movie, but that's the thing that I'm still clinging on to because I just, I'm in love with my internet boyfriend.
Speaking of these, that is the one thing that really came to mind. It's like, really? Because this is the Thief's End is the older. Now, there are a lot of flashbacks in Thief's End as well. So what I think he means by this, and I'm just speculating here, I think they're going to take elements of the story, of the adventure he's on and all that kind of stuff, without it being him obviously at an older age. So that's going to be interesting to see where they go. Aaron, you're hearing about all this. Do you have any enthusiasm at this point for an Uncharted series? And what do you think about Tom Holland and his comments here?
Well, I will be the first person to say that there are certain movies that I am just not the target demographic for. I don't have a PlayStation. I don't play video games. I am not the target demographic. And so I'm not excited about this movie, but that doesn't mean anything as far as whether or not this movie is going to do well or should do well. I agree with you. And as far as Nathan Fillion, though, I do enjoy Nathan Fillion. And since The Rookie will be going on hiatus soon, I don't think that it's improbable that we could have a Nathan Fillion cameo in this. That being said, it is concerning that it seems like in this case, with so many directors flip-flopping and maybe people are on, maybe people are off. By the
way, I think this is officially the 6th director that's been attached to it. Yeah,
it's
been a little bit of a mess.
Many rewrites. I mean, just if you look at the number of people who completely revamped and rewrote the script. Excuse me. We don't even know what this movie is going to be really at this point, given how many rewrites it's gone through and what iteration it is at what iteration it is now. And I wonder how much control the director really is going to have coming in 4 weeks in advance. They're getting ready to do fittings. They're doing fight choreography. Usually a director has many months to prep a movie to really put his or her stamp on it. And so that's my only sort of hesitation about where this is going to go, is it seems a little rushed from the director's perspective.
All right, guys, question is, what do you think about this, that they're going to be shooting this thing in 4 weeks? It's on its way. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets sent in to us by Lindsay Mestra, who writes, "Hi, John. As we enter the age of the streaming wars, one of the major players still to come is HBO Max. I read about a new show I'm really excited about called Minx, set in the 1970s, about the first women's erotic magazine. Does this tell us HBO will both try to focus some programming on shows that will be targeted at women and also skew more adult? Thanks." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Lindsay. And yes, there is this new show coming. The first thing I want to say is, start doing adult programming?
Right. Because HBO has always been linked with, ABC Family.
Yeah, like very, very family
Is
friendly.
Lindsay only watching Sesame Street on HBO?
About, this is back to when HBO was showing Fraggle Rock.
There you go.
Because remember, I didn't have HBO because I had a tortured childhood, and therefore, my parents would not get HBO.
You didn't get to go down to Fraggle Rock.
I was the only kid in school that didn't know the theme song. That's okay.
Dance your cares away. Anyway,
worries for another day.
I've always wanted to be
for
I wanted to
Aaron.
be a dozer. Anyway,
I don't know what that is.
So yes, they've first of all, HBO has a number of programs targeted both at women and the adult audience and all that kind of stuff. This is actually very much in line with their kind of programming and stuff like this. So anyway, this is the write up on it. It says, written by Rappaport, the half-hour Minx is set in the 1970s Los Angeles and centers around an earnest young feminist who joins forces with a low-rent publisher to create the first erotic magazine for women. This sounds a little bit to me. What's the James Franco show?
The Deuce.
The Deuce. This sounds to me a little reminiscent of The Deuce in many ways, which is totally good. And look, you're right. The streaming wars are upon us. The Clone Wars are here. The streaming wars are upon us. HBO Max is going to be a major player in all this. It's still not. We still don't really have a clear picture about what HBO Max is really going to be. How does all the other streaming stuff that HBO is currently involved with going to come into this? What's the DC streaming service going to look like once this thing really goes full throttle? A lot of question marks. I'll tell you what, though. Both The Deuce and this show sound really interesting to me and kind of far out there. Aaron, you heard about this show come in. What do you think about it? And do you think it's something that people should be enthused about?
I'm enthused. I am definitely the target demographic for this show. I read this. I was like, yes, let's talk about this. Here. Okay. There's so many things that I have to say. So, John, you just cut me off when you need to. What's very exciting about this show, and remember, not too long ago, I talked about target demographic.
Yeah.
So anyone who's watching who's like, this show sounds terrible. This is just a bunch of feminist crazy nonsense. Think about it. Maybe this is not your target demographic show. However, I will say this. I'm glad that you brought up The Deuce, because when I was reading about this, my immediate comparisons were The Deuce and Good Girls Revolt, which was a short-lived show.
One season, right?
It had one season, but here was the crazy thing. So Dana Calvo, who was the creator and showrunner of Good Girls Revolt, she was a showrunner of a series that I did and was very vocal about what was going on. And the network that it was on, the guy who was in charge of the network later was fired for multiple sexual harassment issues, and then he even admitted that he never watched a single episode of Good Girls Revolt before he took it off the air.
Wow.
And it was a whole thing, and this really reminded me of that, because it was about when women were first starting to work for newspapers and starting to have their voices heard, and the issues that they were running up against. So when you combine the journalistic aspect of Good Girls Revolt with the eroticism and the sexuality and the craziness that was going on in 1970s Manhattan of The Deuce, I feel like this is a perfect combination of those two. And actually, they're not saying it, but this show is totally based on the actual first female erotica magazine called Viva, which came out in the early 70s, because you have Bob Guccione, I believe is how you pronounce it. He was the founder of Penthouse. He started Penthouse in the UK to go up against Playboy, which was started obviously by Hugh Hefner in the early 1950s. So Penthouse was the first magazine to show like full frontal women's, like first magazine to show pubic hair. I mean, it was totally revolutionary.
Mental note: when I need a porn history lesson,
come to
I
me.
know
I know.
I was gonna say,
over
you
to-
want anything about Batman the Animated Series? Hi, Erin's crushing it with her porn knowledge.
And so Bob said, "Hey, I want to create something similar for women." I mean, the second wave feminist movement was really starting. Women were legally allowed to take birth control pills even if they weren't married. Shock of all shocks. You know, women were really starting to own their own sexuality. And so for the first time, you had this magazine that not only was showing male nudity, but it wasn't shown in the same way. You know, I've talked before about the male gaze versus the female gaze. in magazines like Penthouse, it was like naked women showing all their stuff. And this was like men that were naked and they were leading a horse through the woods, men that were naked and they were having a lovely picnic, and it was soft lighting, and it wasn't necessarily like, here's a dong, ladies, look at it. It was a little bit different because it was for a different audience. But additionally, they had writers like Jane Fonda and Maya Angelou and Paul and Linda McCartney. They had Art Kane as art directors, and a very young Anna Wintour doing the fashion segment before she became the penultimate fashion goddess who now runs Vogue and has started an empire. This show has so much potential. And if you just read up on the history of Viva magazine, it was short-lived. It was 5 years. And I think partly because it didn't really know how to find its audience. Another big conflict is going to be between Bob, the smutty guy who was in charge of everything, and his life partner and working partner, Kathy Keenan, who actually was the publisher but wanted to have more of a feminist slant, wanted to bring in all these really brilliant writers, men and women, and allow for there to be articles about these Vietnam War families, about, stories about rape, stories about the IUD and birth control, and all these stories that were really hard hitting, but from a female point of view that women didn't have access to otherwise. And I think it's also a really interesting case study in pornography versus eroticism and what actually women are interested in and intrigued by. So I cannot, and also to see how the feminists of the time were even against this magazine itself, and how the women who were themselves were relating to being feminist were having to go up against other feminists who were like, this is pornography, take it down. I just think that there's so many ways that they can go with this, and I cannot say how excited I am. I think that if this is done well, which I really hope it is, this is going to be a great show. Totally target demographic.
Chris, you've heard about this. You're reading up on this. Please give us your historical perspective on
Oh,
this.
man. Well, welcome to my TED Talk. Honestly, the first thing I thought when I read about this story was, oh my God, this is such an Aaron show. Aaron's going to produce this. Aaron's going to write for it. Aaron's going to star in it. Oh my gosh, I feel like I've watched the show now, and I'm very intrigued based on the history lesson I just got. And honestly, I do hope that it is a platform that allows intersectional feminism to be explored, because if you're going to be a feminist, you have to support sex workers and you have to support everyone. That's what feminism is, not bringing people down, putting everyone at the same table. So I'm excited about that, and it sounds very interesting. And yeah, this seems so HBO, still baffled by adult programming questions, because yeah,
Very
I'm hyped
HBO.
for this. Very HBO.
All right, guys, the question is, what do you think about the sounds of this show? Maybe you're somebody who watched The Deuce and you're like, oh yeah, this sounds right up my alley. Maybe you never saw that show and this sounds kind of weird and foreign. How do you feel about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to our third main topic today. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Eric Troutman, who writes, I had to rub my eyes when I saw it, but did you see that Roland Emmerich said that Independence Day 3 could actually still happen because he feels Disney likes the idea? I thought this franchise was dead and gone after the second one. Could a third one really happen? All right, thanks a lot for writing that in, man. And you're not reading that wrong. You don't have to rub your eyes. Roland Emmerich, who's of course right now coming off of Midway, which was better than a lot of people thought it would be, is actually still talking about Independence Day 3. And he is kind of suggesting that he thinks Disney might actually be up for it, maybe. Don't get too far ahead of yourself, though. This is what he actually said. Roland Emmerich said the following. I don't know. I really haven't gotten to it. I had naturally talked with Fox about it, and talking about an Independence Day 3, but then when they got bought, I kind of said, well, that's probably over. But I don't know. We'll see. It's kind of like it could happen. It could not happen. Hollywood is like a strange place these days because I have a feeling Disney could maybe be interested in doing it. They like that kind of franchise movie. All right, so that's coming from Roland Emmerich. And of course, he was in talks with Fox to do a third one. Fox got bought, and so he must be in touch at some point. And he's saying he kind of feels like Disney would like it, and just on a philosophical level, he feels like this is the type of movie that maybe Disney would actually be into doing. And you know what? as crazy as it may sound, he's not wrong. This is the kind of franchise that Disney would be interested in. This type of aliens, worldwide heroism, good versus evil, blah, 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 on a huge, epic, adventurous scale with something that has further franchise potential. This is exactly the kind of thing Disney could or would be interested in. Now, you would think that standard logic would dictate to us that after the utter failure of Independence Day 2, both from a quality and a box office perspective, you would think that would have been the final nail in the coffin. But the fact of the matter is this. When you say Independence Day, people still know what we're talking about. When you hear somebody say the movie Independence Day, it still puts a little bit of a smile on our faces. So, listen, I'm not sitting here saying that I think this is going to happen, but I think you're a little bit crazy if you don't think it could happen. So all I'm saying is, if they announce in the next 3 to 4 years that Disney's going to do another one, I won't fall out of my chair in complete and utter shock. That's all I'm saying. Chris, you're hearing about this. Number one, are you surprised to hear Roland Emmerich talk about this? And do you think it actually could happen that we get an Independence Day 3?
I mean, I'm not surprised. The second one was absolute trash.
That was awful.
It was so bad. And like Brackish was brought back and everything. And there was so much potential for it to be cool. And instead it just sucked. Oh, I had such a bad 4th of July. I hated watching it. And I was in Florida. Man, it was a nightmare. So I definitely think they would do it, but it sounds like something like, is Randy Quaid going to be the only one who's like, yes, let's make this movie? Like, I feel like he's the only one crazy enough to want to do it. Disney could definitely work with this franchise. The original is incredible. There's a reason why we all still watch Independence Day and do the monologue along with Bill Pullman every 4th of July.
This is our Independence Day.
There's this great gym here in North Hollywood called Nerd Strong, and they do a 4th of July workout where it's like all built around defeating aliens, and you play Independence Day while it's happening, and then at the end of the workout, everyone does the monologue. It was the most insane thing I've ever done. It was so weird. It was so funny. But anyway,
That is such a Los Angeles
it's so very, yeah.
it's
very, very LA. But and so obviously people are still super connected to that film, and Disney could do something cool with it. It's just, why?
Yeah.
Why? And why did you recast Mae Whitman as the president's daughter? God, I hate everything about that sequel. It makes me so mad.
I remember going in, I went in with the whole crew, and we were like, you know what? Despite all the drama beforehand, these trailers I think look really good, and I think this movie's going to be good, and I was excited to go in to see it, and then it was, yeah, she bit down. So
that was
anyway,
a warm fart on a cold toilet seat of a movie.
it really was. Aaron, what do you think about this? Could we actually see Independence Day 3, or do you think this is just wishful thinking on Roland's part?
I mean, I think that he kind of said it pretty clearly. Maybe not. And in his clarity, there is no clarity, which is basically there. Who knows? I don't think that he actually was saying anything. I think that someone asked him about the possibility of it, and he kind of threw out a sure, why not? I mean, it could happen. We don't even know if this was in development as much as it was a 5-second conversation that he had with Fox. It sounds like he was doing press for another film. He was asked about it, and he threw out the sure, why not? Because why would you ever want to cut off your nose to spite your face? I'll believe it when I see it, and I don't hear anything about a script or about people seriously talking about it other than maybe it could happen. So I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to hold my breath for it.
All right, question here is, guys, what do you think? Do you think there's something to this? Do you think maybe it could happen? Are you the type of person who went, oh my gosh, the last one was so bad, don't do another one? Or are you the type of person who goes, oh my gosh, that last one was so bad, please do another one and redeem it? Which side of the aisle do you fall on? Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to main topic number 4. And our 4th main topic today gets sent in to us by Jason Palmetti, who writes, one of the movies I've been looking forward to for the last few years was Doc Savage with Dwayne Johnson. Yep, they announced that, I believe, back in 2016 or 2017. Dwayne Johnson was doing the classic hero Doc Savage. I remember Johnson saying last year that it was being held up because of business issues. But today I read on Deadline that the movie is officially dead and that they're going to try to do a TV show instead. This sucks. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, just to catch you up a little bit in case you're not familiar with the story. So a number of years ago, I still remember when I was doing another movie show and we led off with this. it got announced. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson put up like on big social media, he was going to be Doc Savage, the classic hero back from the Shadow era. So, and a lot of people got very excited. I thought he was kind of the perfect guy to play it. And then we didn't hear anything. And then we didn't hear anything. And then we didn't hear anything. And then in early 2019, late 2018, Dwayne Johnson did come out and say, yeah, there are problems. There are business technicalities holding everything up. And we didn't really know what was happening at that point. Maybe it wasn't going to happen. Maybe it would. And everything was kind of dark for a while. Until, yep, you said it right. It came along that they're actually decided to scrap the movie idea, and instead they are moving ahead with a television series idea. And they're going to move this into a television series. And it's not going to have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, unfortunately. So Dwayne Johnson's schedule is just too packed, so he's not going to be doing another TV show. Now, it should be mentioned here, there are a couple of really sharp production companies getting involved. I believe the production company behind Preacher is going to be involved with this. Awesome. The production company behind The Boys, I think it's Origin is getting behind this as well.
Seth Rogen's production company.
Oh, yeah, that's right, who did, but I don't know. I think there are a couple of production companies. Okay. I don't know if that one's his or not. It very well may be. But the point is, I mean, it's not a complete dumpster fire because it does look they're getting some really good people involved behind the scenes on this. Maybe it could be something, but I'm not going to lie. I was excited about the idea of seeing a Dwayne Johnson playing Doc Savage, and we're not going to get that. But, oh well, maybe the show will be great. We'll have to wait and see. Aaron, you hear about this. Would you go the way of doing the movie, or would you go the way of doing the TV series? And what do you think about all this?
Well, let's face it, TV is really where it's at right now. I mean, if you would have told me 10 years ago that Al Pacino would be doing a television show, I'd be like, wait, you're crazy. I mean, you look at the biggest Hollywood names and they're all dipping their toes into television shows because unlike a few years ago where every contract I've ever had has been a 7-year contract, regardless of whether or not the show lasts 2 episodes or 7 years. All actors usually had to sign a 7-year contract. Now, because of streaming, especially the bigger names, they'll say, okay, we'll only force you to sign a 1-season contract. And then after that, you can renegotiate or you can leave. That's really appealing to a lot of these bigger names. So because of the bigger named actors that are coming in, and also you have bigger name writers that are coming in, a lot more flexibility than the constraints of network television. I remember asking Stephen DeKnight, the showrunner of Spartacus, whether he liked working on Spartacus with Starz, which is a very new network at the time, versus when he was a writer on, say, Dollhouse, which was on Fox, very corporate. And he said the great thing about working for a cable network, or in these cases, a lot of these streaming networks, is you just have a lot more creative freedom, a lot more flexibility. They're not necessarily trying to appease the paper towel companies that buy ads. So because of that, television shows are just having a lot, they're becoming 1-hour movies that when you piece them together, I mean, if you look at Game of Thrones, no one looks at that and goes, oh, it's just a little TV show. So I think that the world of storytelling in television has gone to places we never could have imagined. And let's face it, it's really hard to get a big budget movie financed and to know that it's going to make its money back. We've seen a lot of movies with these massive budgets that just don't end up doing very well for the studio. So if the producers or the production company can turn around and go, all right, let's make this an 6 or 10 episode limited series, and then it can live in perpetuity and continue to gain a worldwide audience on Netflix, I mean, you're never going to run out of cash.
Yeah, talking about the popularity of the shows now on streaming, I about 4 nights a week, I'll go over to this place in Burbank called Cafe O. It's this big outdoor, great, it's a hookah lounge. I don't smoke hookah myself, but the environment's great. You sit aside, I often pack up my bag, I go down there, I do all my work from there, I write the next day show notes from there and all that kind of stuff, and they play great music, so Ann and Corey come all the time too. And we're sitting there last night, and this is speaking to the popularity of streaming right now, because we're listening to the music rotation. They always play great music, and all of a sudden, I'm working and I look up, and I look at Ann and say, Ann, listen. I'm like, are they playing Toss a Coin to Your Witcher? And we're starting, and sure enough, they were playing over there, Toss a Coin to Your Witcher. I was like, oh, cool. So then about an hour and a half later, I'm working again about an hour and a half later, and I look up at Ann again and say, Ann, listen again. And it was a cover of the Mandalorian theme. being played. Dun, 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 dun. But then these metal guitars came in. It was pretty damn
That's
awesome,
awesome.
actually.
Oh wow!
So, I
Can
mean,
you
yeah,
find that
so
for me?
you're getting
Did you Shazam that in the moment?
What's that?
Did you Shazam that?
Oh, no, I didn't. No, I did not. But I should have found it. But I'm sure if it's playing in rotation, I'm sure I'm going to be able to find it. But yeah, like even
We'll
just the
call
music
Cafe
from
out.
these shows are kind of becoming prevalent too. Anyway, Chris, over to you. You hear about them moving this thing over to television instead of as a movie. Good move, bad move? What do you think?
I think this is an excellent move. And I think part of why you need to know this is an excellent move is you have to know about Doc Savage. So for those who aren't aware, this is a character created back in the 1930s around the same time as like The Shadow and Dick Tracy, Pulp Fiction stuff. And it's what ushered in the comic book era that we have now. Stan Lee credits Doc Savage as one of his greatest inspirations for creating all the things he did with Marvel. So we have this character who is trained from a young age to be at his physical peak, who has a photographic memory, who is a absolute genius. And he interacts with all kinds of people. He's out there righting wrongs, serving justice. The Man of Bronze has interacted with tons and tons of characters. He has so many stories. So I think to really do this character justice and explore all the IP has to offer, television is the way to go. You can really explore his childhood. You can see him interact with different people. You can see a really long life to a television show. A movie, you're going to maybe cover one epic tale of his, right? You do a show, you're going to get to do so many different stories with him and really, really just get all you can out of this fantastic character.
All right, guys, question is this. Do you like the idea of them taking Doc Savage to television? Do you wish they had done the movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson like I kind of do, I admit? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to our fifth and final main topic today. And our fifth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Happy Hitchhiker, who writes, "Hi, John. Love the show. Thank you so much. It's been assumed lately that with Thor 4 coming, Thor wouldn't actually appear in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. The way Endgame left off, I think a lot of us were hoping to see more of the Asgardians of the galaxy together, but Chris Pratt just said that Thor may still be in the movie. What does that mean? Do you think Thor will be in Guardians 3? All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, man. And yes, at the end of Avengers Endgame, it looked like they were setting up that the next Guardians of the Galaxy 3 would essentially be kind of a de facto Asgardians of the Galaxy, that Thor would be with them. He actually went off on their adventure with them, and so a lot of us just assumed Thor's going to be in there. But then all the reports that started coming out after that, especially after Comic-Con, was that actually no, Thor is not going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and that kind of just became assumed. Chris Pratt was just also at the Onward premiere the other night, and he was being interviewed, and, you know, the interviewer talking to him was kind of lamenting that they're not going to see Thor in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, to which Chris Pratt said the following. He said this, "How do you know that Thor's not in Guardians 3? We haven't shot it yet. He might be in Guardians 3. We don't know yet. There's no definitive yes or no on that," says Chris Pratt. So Pratt is saying, unless he's just being coy and trying to, you know, string people along, which he very well may be, he's kind of saying that it doesn't even sound like he knows for sure. Like, the fact of the matter is, James Gunn wrote his script for this movie years ago. Before all the, you know, his tweets came up, Disney fired him, then they brought him back, now he's working on Suicide. Before all that, he wrote the script. A lot of changes can happen in a script, you know, in that type of a time frame. A lot of things can happen. And so something could be happening here with something like that. It would totally make sense in many ways. So it could very well be that Chris Pratt himself doesn't know if for sure if they're going to have Thor in there or not. If I had to guess, my guess is Thor will not be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Now, I can already hear everybody yelling and screaming at the computer, "But John, didn't you see the end scene in Avengers Endgame?" Yeah, I saw it. I know they went, but that doesn't mean anything. We've seen lots of Marvel movies end on some sort of epic note, and then that was never picked up again later. They could say, yeah, he went off with them for a few weeks, and then he had to go split and do his own thing. I actually don't think, especially with Thor: Love and Thunder coming, I do not think that they're going to do it. I don't think he's going to be in there. I think the possibility still exists, like Chris Pratt is saying, but right now I don't think that's actually something on their radar. Chris, you saw the end of Endgame. You've heard all the reports. Now you're hearing what Chris Pratt is saying. What do you think about what Chris Pratt is saying? And do you think Thor might actually show up in Guardians of the Galaxy 3?
He very well could. And like he said, they haven't filmed it yet, guys. Anything's possible. And of course, Pratt's going to be all cheeky and coy with us. You know, he's not going to flat out say, no, we're not using Hemsworth. Why would we put that man in here? You guys don't want to see him, right? No, like he's not going to do that. And also, I think everyone needs to remember is that the As Guardians of the Galaxy thing, that still can come into play even if we don't have an As Guardians of the Galaxy movie. You know, we've already gotten Valkyrie in the films. We've got the Destroyer in the first Thor movie shows up. You know, there are elements that you can pepper in there. We could get Angela at some point. So some of these elements could come in and Thor very well could come in and work with them too. I think at the very least, we're going to get a cameo or some cute little, you know, after credits button with him.
Aaron, you're hearing all this. Which way do you think they're going to go with Thor? Is he going to pop up in this movie or not?
Well, clearly, Chris Pratt and Roland Emmerich have been studying from the same book of how to be cheeky in an interview. I mean, I want to see fat Thor and fat Chris Pratt. Bring back the dad bods. I just want to see both of them balancing a beer on their bellies and just telling fart jokes. That's really all I want. I don't really care about the rest of the stuff that's going on in Guardians of the Galaxy or Avengers. I just wanted to see two fat dad bods just chilling. Because let's face it, Fat Thor was he did such a great job and was so funny. I think that always bringing back Thor is going to be a great idea because he's not only obviously great at what he does as far as just being an awesome badass superhero, but he's also very entertaining and he's fun and he's lovable. He brings a levity to any situation that I think is always welcome. And yes, Chris Pratt is obviously being very cheeky. They don't know what's going on in the film yet, so it remains to be seen.
Yeah, I don't know that now that Chris Pratt's father-in-law is Arnold Schwarzenegger that we're going to see Fat Pratt anytime soon. Although I would give some money to see Andy Dwyer, Parks and Rec, Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
I would totally pay some money to see that.
I miss him.
Oh, I miss him too.
So in love with Andy.
Still watching
Tom and
that
I
all the
watch
time.
outtakes. The outtakes of him are the best.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. Did you ever see the blooper reel from Parks and Rec? Where all the cast they were in like some sort of town hall meeting, but it was like the whole cast. And it was a scene in the movie and they were kind of riffing a little bit. Mm-hmm. And she goes, so you got the two main characters where you had Anne and Leslie Knope up at the front. And they're going, okay, we need a good comeback story.
Oh, don't tell this. Don't.
Yes.
No.
Okay, I got it because this is
We've all seen it.
If you have not seen this, you have to look this up. Because they're just kind of riffing. So they're trying to do the scene, and you have Amy Poehler up there at the front going, okay, we need a good comeback story. What's a good comeback story? And somebody said, what was the horse? Seabiscuit. Then somebody said something else. And then he said, who did he say?
Kim Kardashian.
He said Kim Kardashian. And Leslie Knope is like, Amy Poehler trying to play off. She's, comeback story? Yeah, in that video, she had cum on her back. And the whole cast just lost it. The entire cast just lost it. Even the one guy even started falling out of his chair. They were all laughing.
Jim lost it.
Oh my God, it was so funny.
Keep it together.
It was so funny.
I think his best one is Leslie, I looked up your symptoms. It says you have connectivity issues. Yeah. I remember the creator of the show was like, I hate Chris Pratt. That's the best joke in the entire series. And I didn't write it.
He ended up getting himself, like, he came right up to the line. There was a scene where Leslie Knope opens the door and he was standing there completely naked. Like,
what? And did she know that was going to happen? Did Amy Poehler?
No. And they had to tell him, like, hey,
there's a line.
There's a line and you just crossed it. And this was like right before, this was right before the shit hit the fan in Hollywood. Like, if that had happened a year later, he would have been fired, blackballed.
Well, he probably wouldn't have done it a year later.
Yeah.
I mean, that...
One would hope.
Yes.
One would hope. But, now it's kind of frowned on, like, hey, if no one's asking to see your dick, you probably shouldn't be pulling your dick out.
Yeah, not post...
We had one of those on Spartacus. We had a guy that, like, just really
but you had a lot of exposed dicks on Spartacus.
This was literally, like, I remember one of the actresses was like, literally the camera's not even on him. It's not... He could be wearing a sweatsuit, and he's got his ugly little dick just hanging out there for me to look at on my close-up. And I was like... You might want to tell him to put his pants on. It was kind of like a running joke. Like, yeah, he would like go to the writers and be like, do you need me to be naked for this? No, you don't.
Nope.
I'll be naked. I'll pants down. Oh, you don't need to be naked for nobody. This is not a naked scene. I'm naked anyway. Look at my dick.
All right, guys. Question is, what do you think about Chris Pratt's comments here? Do you think Thor will show up? I know a lot of us thought he would automatically at the end of Endgame, but then all the reports said he wouldn't. Now maybe he is. Do you think he will? Do you think he should? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that down and out of the way, we're now going to move on to our live questions. But before we do, as I like to do here, we're going to take just a short break, give me a chance to rest the vocal cords, stretch the legs, refill the drink, give you a chance to run and use the bathroom, do whatever you'd like to do. So if you guys will hang tight with us, don't go anywhere. We will be right back with your live questions. We'll see you in just a minute. And we are back. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience and indulgence as I took a little bit of a break there. All right, without any further ado, let's dive in and start taking your live questions on this Thursday. And we're going to get things started off here with Ali Altalia writes, man, I really want an Avengers movie with Fantastic Four. See, I'm not sure. I just think that could be too overstuffed and convoluted. Like, Avengers Endgame, as much as I liked it, you could often feel the weight of it. And being a little bit of so I'm not really sure how much I want to see that, but I'm really looking forward to seeing Fantastic Four, but I just want to see them in their own movie. Anyway, Joshua Levesque writes, hey John, loving the second season of your podcast. Thank you so much. We just put up the latest episode the other day of Best Movie, Worst Movie. By the way, if you're not listening to Best Movie, Worst Movie, find it on your favorite podcasting app of choice. We just put up the newest episode the other day. Go and subscribe to it today. Anyway, I've been a fan for a while, and Ashley Whalen was one of the best people you've ever hired. I know she's busy, but is there any chance you can have her appear like once a month? Can you ask her? Thanks. No, I don't think I will have her back for stuff like that. I'm not saying I wouldn't work with Ashley again sometime in the future. Sure, I would. She's great. But she's not a... Ashley will be the first person to tell you she's not a commentator. She's not a pundit. So there's not really a lot of point in bringing her in for a guest spot per se, because that's not really what she does. But yeah, she is wonderful, and I would love to work with her again sometime in the future if ever the opportunity for something like that arises. All right, Sam Elliott's mustache, what a great name, writes.
I'm into that.
You discussed yesterday if Blunt or Krasinski would be accepted in Fantastic Four without the other. Fun curveball. If not Krasinski with Blunt, what about Krasinski with Jenna Fisher, who of course was Pam in The Office? Also, trivia note, she's also the ex-wife of James Gunn, the director of...
Really?
Yeah, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy.
And best friends with Angela Kinsey, who she met on The Office.
And now they do a podcast together called Office Girls. Is that what it's called?
Oh, I don't know.
Something like that. But it's like one of the most popular podcasts in the world. Anyway, the dynamic probably wouldn't work, but it's fun to throw out there. Here's the thing, Sam. I'll say this. I think, first of all, would there be a neat novelty to that? Yes, there would be a neat novelty if you had John Krasinski come in as Mr. Fantastic and Jenna Fisher come in as Sue Storm. But the novelty wears off quickly. And pretty quick after that, it's going to seem like a shtick instead of like cool. And novelty can be very cool and very effective. But I fear that it would devolve really quickly and all we'd see, and people wouldn't be talking about Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. They'd be talking about Jim and Pam being back together. And so I love Jenna Fisher and I'd love to see her in more things, but no, I don't think that would probably be a wise idea. Maybe a good Saturday Night Live sketch, but that's about it. Aaron, could you see Jenna Fisher and John Krasinski getting back together to be in Fantastic Four together?
No, and here's the reason why. They played completely different characters. And people have fallen in love with Jim and Pam to the degree that seeing them brought back together, you would want to see them brought back together as Jim and Pam, and it would be too difficult. I mean, we've seen it all the time, how people are known for a certain character on a certain TV show or a certain movie franchise, and then it's really challenging for them to get out of that bubble because fans know them as that. I mean, obviously, for couples on television, it's even worse.
What do you think, Chris?
Oh, I don't want that at all. Let them be Jim and Pam. Keep that away. I want John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic so bad. And Emily Blunt, yeah, I think that's great. But I really want him as Reed Richards.
All right, let's move on here. Next question up is, where are we at here? Here we are. The next question up comes from us from Daniel Quintana, who writes, I just watched Sunset Boulevard, the 1950 edition, and my God, I love it. It's a bit slow. Oh, yeah, but it's a slow burn, but it's a burn. It's a bit slow to start, but it completely enthralls you, much like Whiplash and Black Swan. It's a story of the obsessed artist. What are your thoughts on the Hollywood classic? Keep up the great work. I remember I was really young when I first saw Sunset Boulevard, and then I didn't see it again forever. And then I was at a John Williams Maestro of the Movies concert at the Hollywood Bowl, and they did like a whole 10-minute segment of it just dedicated to the music of Sunset Boulevard. And so Anna and I we need to watch that again. And then we went back and watched again. I think Billy Wilder directed that film. It is fabulous. It is a wonderful movie. And you know what's funny about it, guys? It is a movie that is surprisingly contemporary.
Oh, yeah.
Like when you go back and watch that movie, it's like, oh, this is a movie that could have been made today. It totally. What are your memories of it, Erin? You're thinking when you think about Sunset Boulevard.
When I think about Sunset Boulevard, I think about one of the quintessential films about the film industry.
Right.
It's one of those movies that everyone watches in film school, and if you have any desire to work in any way in the film industry, you must watch this movie over and over and over again. And I think part of it is the tragedy of this woman who was, a silent film star who does not have the capacity to make the transition into the talkies. And what's that famous line? Not "I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille," everybody knows that. But it's the, "I've always been big. It's the pictures that have gotten smaller."
Right.
Like those sorts of things. This actress that just couldn't make that transition, and how ultimately the only way to get her out of the house was to make her think she was starring in a movie. It's really sad, but also to see the lengths that this writer goes to get his career off the ground. It's just a fascinating portrayal of Hollywood.
Chris, you ever had a chance to watch Sunset Boulevard?
I did. I had to watch it in my first film class in college.
Oh, wow.
And it was great. And I just was enthralled with the whole thing. And you also go into it, like you move to LA thinking like, this is what it's going to be.
This is what Hollywood's going to be like.
I'm sure that some people have had that story.
Yeah, where you're just waiting to see Gloria Swanson. You're like, you're going to have a run-in kind of situation where you're like, I'm going to meet that kind of actress.
You know what movie painted what my mental picture of what living in Hollywood was going to be like before I moved here? It's a weird one. You wouldn't guess it. It's America's Sweetheart with John Cusack and Julia Roberts.
Really?
Yeah, I just
I've
remember,
never seen that.
But oddly enough,
what is it about that?
Okay, so America's Sweetheart's about these two famous actors who were married, and then their relationship broke up, and but they filmed one last movie together, and now Billy Crystal plays this big studio publicist who is desperately trying to promote their last movie together, but nobody's interested because they're broken up now. So he tries to make it look like they're back together again.
Oh, that's
only he falls in love with his ex-wife's sister, who is played by Julia Roberts, and then John Cusack and Julia Roberts get together. Anyway, so here's the thing, and Seth Green, I think Seth Green is in it as well. But here's the one thing about that movie that they get shockingly correct: the press junkets. Oh my God! Like,
well, if anybody knows anything about press junkets, you've been to 1,000 of them.
Probably about 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
I am to this day, and I didn't know because I hadn't done press junkets before seeing it, America's Sweetheart. After I came out here, and I'm like, this is just like America's Sweethearts. It's great. By the way, first time I ever saw Rainn Wilson, speaking of The Office, playing Dwayne. He played one of the film critics doing the press junket interviews with them. So small part.
You know the movie that I always thought was Hollywood.
Which one?
Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I know it sounds so crazy, but I literally, when you think of Toontown, those big walls and everyone inside the walls is just like cartoons running around. That's what I thought Hollywood was. I thought it was like you can live in Los Angeles, but then there's Hollywood and there's the four walls and everyone inside it is famous. And I was like, well, then I moved here and I realized, okay, that's clearly not it. And then I saw Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton shopping at the grocery store. And I was like, oh, I'm totally in Toontown right now.
I remember the other show to me that I was shocked to find out how accurate it was in a very meta way about what life is like in Hollywood. What was actually Entourage. I remember that's like, holy crap, on a very meta level, this show is actually scary accurate.
Oh, yeah.
About what it's like to be here. So,
and it was almost like they were writing episodes and filming them and airing them the next day.
Yes.
Because it was like the hottest club, the hottest restaurant, the hottest actor or actress of the moment. They were literally on the air, and then 5 seconds later, the places were shut down. And you were like, how did they capture that moment so quickly?
All right. Sorry, guys. Got sidetracked there. Okay, let's move on here. Next topic up here is The Knight Who Says Knee. Writes, there's a rumor Timothée Chalamet might cameo. Oh, you can just forget that rumor. Who might cameo as Dick Grayson in The Batman in a casting call for a major action feature film. They're looking for people with circus skills in Northwest London for March, so it looks connected. Do you think? No, I don't believe that at all. And listen, guys, if you're going to write in a question about there's a rumor, first of all, I can start a rumor tomorrow. John Goodman's going to be the new Daredevil. There. You can start spreading that around.
I would watch that so hard.
Yep, let's do it.
Oh, man.
So there you go, guys. You can start telling people on Twitter, you heard a rumor. You heard a rumor. John Goodman's going to be Daredevil. I don't believe that for a second. Nothing in this town is impossible. Nothing in this town is impossible. But until I hear it from a actual source, there's no point in wasting brain cells on it
It's
at
like
this
my
point.
mom. I read it on Facebook.
Yeah.
So therefore, yep.
I read it on Facebook.
Yeah.
It must be true.
Yeah. All right. Gavin writes, "Hey, John and gang, long time, first time. Oh, good to have you here, Gavin. Have you guys seen Lock and Key on Netflix? It's about a magical house with different keys that unlock different doors of the house with specific powers. Like one door turns you into a ghost. Great show, yours as well." Well, thank you so much for that, Gavin. I'll tell you what. When they announced Lock and Key, I was intrigued. I was really intrigued by it. And then they dropped the trailer. And the trailer actually turned me off. And I remember watching the trailer, I'm like, I don't sense any pace to this. I don't sense any energy to it. I don't sense... And I just never got around to watching it. And I'll be honest with you, Gavin, until you brought it up, it completely was off my radar. I haven't even thought about it since I saw the trailer. So it's good to hear that you thought it was actually pretty good, but it's just that the trailer, there's the power of trailers, guys. It just... I lost all my interest in the show, and I've never even given it another thought since. Have either of you guys watched it since it came out?
Yeah, I got screeners for it, and I reviewed it.
So, what did you think? What did you think about it?
I liked it. So, what you need to know going into it is if you've read the comics Lock and Key, it is very different than that. It's it's a Joe Hill comic. It is brutal and bloody, and they've made some changes. So this has more of a YA feel to it. It feels more like Narnia. They switched their Stephen King vibes for Steven Spielberg vibes. If you get my drift, there's like Goonies kind of elements to it. So not as gory. Not as shocking, which in some moments from the comic, I'm glad they got rid of some things. I'm glad Joe changed some things because he was very involved in the show. But it's fun. It's just if you love the comic, you're probably not the target demographic for this show. That being said, I think it's a really, really fun, cool show. I really enjoyed watching it.
All right, good
John,
to know.
considering that you are the trailer master, or are there any movies that you've seen the trailer of and been like, oh, that does not look good, that was a terrible trailer, but then seen the movie and been surprisingly pleased?
Oh yeah, all the time. It happened just recently, actually. I thought the Sonic movie looked like utter garbage. And I don't love that movie, but it's not all that bad, actually. It's not actually, but I actually love it when there's a movie I think looks like total horseshit, and then I go watch it and go, huh, and walk out like really pleasantly surprised. So it happens to me.
Well, it's better than the reverse.
Yes, because that happens all the time too, where we're like, oh, this is gonna be Independence Day 2.
Yep.
We think, oh, this is gonna be awesome, and then you go see the movie, it's like, oh, that was a huge freaking letdown. So I mean, actually, it's kind of funny. I had both happen in the same week because I started to get turned on to Harley Quinn. I started to get turned on to Harley Quinn, the Birds of Prey movie. And then I saw it and I'm like, And then I was totally thinking Sonic was going to be absolute utter garbage. And it's not great, but it was like, that was a lot better than I thought it would be.
Right.
So it's always kind of neat when you get to have those
I'm
experiences.
so happy Ben Schwartz is having a moment because I love him.
Love Ben
I
Schwartz.
love
Ben
him.
Schwartz.
He
Love
is
Ben
so
Schwartz.
wonderful and so funny and so talented.
Because not only was he great, we all think of John Ralphio, obviously, but he was in that show with Don Cheadle.
House of Cards.
House of
Lies.
House of Lies with Don Cheadle and Sarah Marshall.
Kristen Bell.
And Kristen Bell. That was a really good... It got a little
great.
weak near its end, but that was a really solid show, and he was wonderful in it, but nobody ever talked about him in it. So I was honestly thinking... And by the way, I went down to UBC one night. Just because a friend of mine got us tickets for UBC. Because
UCB?
UCB, sorry.
Upright Citizens Brigade, for those of you.
And because a
Great
friend of ours
improv.
got tickets for Ann and I because we were both big Ben Schwartz fans, and he was kind of leading a thing that night.
Oh, wow.
And so we went down to watch him do like live improv, and he was great. He was so good.
Amy Poehler is a UCB grad, right?
Yes.
She's one of the
original
founders.
people, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep.
And I bet a lot of people on Parks and Rec were UCB people.
They were, and actually the late great John Schnepp that's how he met Amy Poehler because he was involved with UCB out in Chicago. I believe it was in Chicago.
Okay.
Is that where they? And I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had connections with all of them. Over there. So that was pretty cool too. Anyway, sorry. Again, getting sidetracked. Need to keep on going here with the questions. All right. Tacky75 writes, I always read how comics depict female heroes in a sexy way, voluptuous bodies, big breasts, etc. But isn't that true of the male heroes too, who are always portrayed with square jaws, six packs, and bulging biceps? True. I mean, look, the comic books always, they kind of depict what we envision to be the ultimate version of us. The ultimate version of us. Like if we had big chests and big arms and square jaws and incredible good looks, or the female end sexy and all that kind of stuff. All the things that we imagine would be the very best traits of us if we could have it all. So yeah, there's a little bit of truth in that. The difference to me has always been, and even as a teenager, I recognize this. The difference has always been, while the guys like Cyclops or whatever would wear really skin tight outfits, the outfits usually covered 90% of their body. Whereas the female heroes usually had, G-strings pulling up as tight as you could go and revealing everything on them. There is a little bit of a difference there. But as far as the overall thing of how they projected body type of us always being, if I could be anything, if I could look any way, that is how I would look, and so they've done that for both the genders. Yeah. But again, the clothing stuff has been one of the different things there. Yes, Aaron.
But let's also remember who is creating the looks of these. Men are saying, if I could look like anything, this is how I would look. It's not women that are drawing those male characters.
Well, true, yeah.
It's men that are drawing those male characters. And for the most part, it's not women who are drawing female characters. It's men who are drawing female characters. So it's not like women are saying, if I could look like anything, I would want to look like this. Mm-hmm. Let's also think about the fact that if you have bulging biceps and, big traps and like nice big quads as a man, that helps you, lift your hammer harder, lift your hammer, run faster, jump higher. There is no superhero trait that having big boobs helps with. In fact,
scientifically, it helps me throw a punch when my tits are bigger.
In fact, but if you look at female wrestlers, unless women who are like Ronda Rousey, and who's the woman who's in The Mandalorian who's so
Sasha
awesome?
Banks. Gina Carano.
Gina Carano, thank you.
Who's an MMA fighter, not a wrestler.
But still, women who are incredibly athletic do not have large breasts. You know why? Because that fat tissue is actually muscle instead. So they usually, unless they have implants, have smaller breasts. So I do want to make a slight...
Still true, but I still think there's an underlying thing there, even with male artists, about, like, if I thought about what, our idea about what would the ultimate male look like, it always looks better than we actually look.
For me, it would be a dad bod.
Right, but for guys,
I know what you're saying.
If I could be anything, I would actually look like this, and it's always better than what we are. It's always far better. Again, the square jobs, the six pack, the whatever. There's this famous Jim Lee illustration of Captain America where his face is here, but his chest comes out to here, that everybody kind of mocks all the time. And they did, those male artists did the same for women. If I could think of the ultimate female physique, this is what it would look like to them. But you're right. Those were often portrayed and drawn by men, not by women.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, trust me, I love big boobs. I think boobs are great. Mine tried to kill me,
That's
so
the quote of the day.
I got new ones.
Hashtag, I think boobs are great.
I do. I got the shirt at Rock of Ages that says "Hooray for boobies." I wear it all the time. I love boobs. Don't get me wrong. But again, and I think that you brought up a really good point that yes, we do have men with these incredible physiques, but 90%, if not more, of their bodies are covered. Where's the guy that's running around in the hot pants? I don't necessarily want to see that on my superheroes, but I'd like a lady.
Next comic book I pick up, there better be just like some assless chaps on a guy. All right, deliver it, Marvel.
I'm mega cowboy. All right, let's see. I don't know why I brought up the Chris Pratt quote. Okay, let's move on. Next one. Here, Ryan Lohner writes, "I really hope we see Erin's character on All Rise again. There seems to be so much potential there to either redeem herself or go full villain." So from his mouth to God's ears.
Absolutely. I'll take it. Give me a call.
They clearly left your character open-ended. So obviously they left the door open there for that. So
yeah, although I will say this, Block is dead.
Oh, is Block dead?
Someone wrote me back and they were like, "Hey, just so you know, they mentioned Block," and they were like, "Oh, by the way, yeah, she died in the hospital."
She did.
Did they?
Apparently, I don't know.
Not in the episode you were in, they didn't.
Someone told. Well, then maybe someone's pulling my leg. I
think that was something you were like in a photo of something in the background.
But now that all the multi-Earths have been combined into Earth Prime, don't know if Block survived that or not.
I think that if Block was going to come back, she would have already made an appearance.
I don't know. Who knows? Maybe.
I'm happy to let it all go. If I go back to All Rise or I go back to anything, great, wonderful. If not, there's other projects that
I still think there's a chance we'll see Block again.
You never know. I'm open to all of it.
All right, Eddie I Ignite writes, Hey, John and crew, love the show. Thank you so much. I listen every day on the long rides home from work. Have you seen the newest The Hollywood Reporter? I have not, but I actually queued it up last night to watch, and then Ann and I got distracted and we started watching something else. Anyway, see the newest Hollywood Roundtable featuring studio executives from Sony, Disney, Paramount, and more. Many interesting points made. Would love your thoughts. No, I desperately want to watch this. Their roundtable stuff has always been really good, but I think like Alan Horn was one of them. I think Tom Rothman was one of them. Like they actually got the power players in a roundtable. I've got to watch it. I have not watched it yet. I'm not going to watch it today because today's packed, but hopefully, but by the end of the week, I'm going to get a chance to watch that because I really do want to see it, Eddie. And it does look great. And by the way, Eddie, thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level. That's really generous of you. But again, I was sitting there last night, all queued up, had it ready to go, and then something else caught my eyes. Like, ooh, look at that. And then I clicked on something else to watch instead, but I definitely have to watch that.
More terabyte videos.
Yes, and more terabyte server videos. Yep, to be led into, Saved by the Bell reunion videos. Anyway, Armani Martinez writes, hey, John, and by the way, Eddie, take Eddie's advice, everybody. Go and check that out because I am fascinated to see it, and I want everybody to watch it too because it sounds like just too good to be true. Armani Martinez writes, hey, John, my question is, if the Oscars didn't receive all that backlash for potentially bringing back the most popular film category, which was one of the most idiotic things ever conceived of by mankind. Let's just be clear about that. Do you think that Joker would have won that? What films would you have nominated in that category? It's an idiotic category. I don't even want to pretend about its existence even ever being a thing. I don't even want to indulge that. Here's the thing, though. Specifically talking about Joker, the Oscars would have been in the same predicament with Joker as they were with Parasite, with foreign film. Because when you look at the nominees for foreign film, only one of the nominees for Best Foreign Film was also nominated for Best Picture. That was Parasite. So basically, the Academy was in a position where you can't have any other film but Parasite win Best Foreign Film, because if Parasite doesn't win Best Foreign Film, then the question is, well, then how is it nominated for Best Picture and the film that beat it for Best Foreign Film isn't nominated for Best Picture? So it kind of became a foregone conclusion. Joker would have been the only film. And by the way, this stupid idiotic Academy never even came up with a definition of what is a popular film. They never even came up with a definition. But let's say for argument's sake that Joker would have been considered a popular film. Well, they would have been in the same predicament because Joker would have been the only popular film nominated for Best Idiotic Popular Film that was also nominated for the real award of Best Picture. Therefore, the Academy would have had no choice but to award it to Joker. So yes, 100% Joker would have won if that idiotic thing actually existed, that pathetic, stupid, moronic idea that was spewed right out of the asshole of hell. If that had actually happened, then Joker would have won. It would have been no contest. It would have been no choice. It would have had to have been Joker. Anyway, there's that. All right, next up, Supercam13 writes, John, a YouTuber who is a Snyder Cut fan, you know what? I don't even want to answer the question now. But I will. Who is a Snyder Cut fan, claims he has, oh, really? A YouTuber claiming they have a source? Claims he has a source in Warner Brothers who told him that Jeff Johns was the reason that Affleck stepped away. Okay, don't believe that for a second. Stepped away. I personally think he's a lunatic. On his past uploads, he worships Snyder, hates Johns, or Jeff Johns, Kevin Feige, and you. Thoughts? Who cares? Who cares? Look, that's like saying I was walking in a mall and I overheard somebody say this. What do you think about that? Who the fuck cares? I don't care. Everybody has a YouTube channel. Every idiot like me has a YouTube channel, can say whatever the hell they want, and it's not worth commenting on. So I'm not going to bother commenting on that. Now, you did tip $50. Now, normally when somebody tips $50, what I will do is make their own standalone video, and I'm going to honor that. And I'll try to come up with something more insightful to say. But like, I honestly don't. Look, here's the honest truth. The honest truth is this, Supercam. All these fucking idiots with YouTube channels, and I include myself in that fucking idiot list. Who cares what any of them say? Who cares? I'll be honest with you. I shake my head in disbelief that some people seriously have nothing better to do than to get upset at something, at an opinion I have of a movie, because why? I'm a fucking nobody. I'm just a YouTuber just talking movies with the people who watch my show. Why the fuck do you care if my opinion is different than yours? Who the hell cares? Like, I'm not a studio head. I'm not some famous actor. I'm not a big director. I'm a fucking nobody from Canada who does a YouTube show and just has a lot of fun doing it. Why does anybody waste time? I think you got to be really lame to waste time about what other YouTubers say. I always say on this show that my YouTube channel does not exist so I can talk about other YouTube channels. I think that's bottom of the barrel, bottom feeding, quite frankly. I'm not saying that I haven't been guilty of it. I just really try to make sure I don't be more guilty of it than I already have been in the past. It's an idiotic fool's errand. So understanding that, I don't care what other YouTubers say. I really don't care. I don't know why anybody does. If there's a YouTuber you enjoy and you like watching him and interacting with them, great. But why any other YouTuber would feel the need to comment on what other YouTubers are doing, I just don't understand the philosophy of that. I think it's bottom feeding. I think it's pointless. I think it just shows that you're not talented enough to, in an engaging and entertaining way, talk about issues that matter in that field. But it is what it is. So bottom line, Supercam, I don't care what some random YouTuber said about the Snyder Cut. I don't care what some random YouTuber said about Ford's tires on their cars. I don't care what some random YouTuber said about the Miss America beauty pageant. I don't care. I don't care. Just like nobody else should care about what I say about certain topics. You have your communities and we all talk. We have our film fan community here. We talk, we discuss, and we engage with each other, and that's great. But outside of that, I don't understand why people want to talk about other people's opinions. I don't know. It's just me, Supercam, just me. Okay, let's move on.
You're somebody to me, John.
What's that?
You're somebody to me.
Oh, thank you, Aaron. I appreciate that.
And I'm pretty sure you're somebody to Chris.
I'm just here for the money.
You're damn sure somebody to Joey Bishop.
I know,
she was
right?
going to stay home today, and I
Joey.
said the magic word John, and she was like, let's go.
Anyway, now there are going to be 50 other YouTube videos being made about John Campea says that you shouldn't listen to YouTubers.
John Campea
there you
hates
go.
YouTube.
There we go. Anyway, Daniel Rahim writes, let's see. Where'd he go? There he is. Just watched Shawshank Redemption. Perfection. Just watched Shawshank Redemption for the first time in years. I know film is subjective, but this has to be one of those rare movies where you just said it, where it's absolute perfection. Mm-hmm. Get busy living or get busy dying. Guys, to me, he ain't wrong. That to me really is damn near. I mean, no movie is perfect. But there are some that come pretty damn close to it. And to me, Shawshank Redemption is just one of those films. There is simply no flaw. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't things in Shawshank Redemption that could have been done even a little bit better. But as far as flaws go, it is a flawless movie. Mm-hmm. It is an absolutely flawless movie. You guys have both seen it, yes?
Yes.
Thoughts on Shawshank Redemption?
There's two moments that I love, two things that I thought were brilliant. Number one, I actually quoted the other day, a friend of mine was going to a pretty big party and was very nervous about the shoes that he was wearing, but he wanted to be comfortable. And I said, just think Shawshank Redemption. How often do you look at a man's shoes? That was one. I was like, you look great from the top of your head until your knees. Don't worry about what's on your feet. And the second part was how, it's very challenging for a director to show the passage of time without making it so obvious. And I love the fact that they just had the simplest thing. It went from a Rita Hayworth poster to the pinup posters that were on the wall. It was, I forget exactly who it was. I believe Rita Hayworth was one of them, though, but it could have been
what say you, fussy britches?
Yeah, so it's just I love that they tackled that passage of time by simply showing who the pinup of the day was in the changing of the poster. So subtle, but then of course we have the callback to the poster when they rip it down, and that's where the hole is.
Yeah.
It was just brilliantly done.
One of the greatest moments in any movie when that poster comes down. It's just like, what?
And then it pulls back and you just see the look on their faces.
That's what I was going to say, is that's the moment where you're like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then that iconic shot too, just out in the rain, just...
that they made the poster out of with this, one of the greatest, by the way, in my top 3 best movie posters of all time is that picture of Dufresne out in the rain with his hands held up to heaven. It's one of the greatest posters ever.
And it's such a classic pose because you also had Willem Dafoe in Platoon with that same, that same shot.
Yeah, interesting. All right, let's move on here. Murray Reich writes, "Hey, John, I heard from Adam Schefter that the NFL is proposing, this is true, is proposing in the coming weeks, if it goes through, that there would be 14 teams in the playoffs, one extra team in each conference, which means there's only one number one seed, and the rest play the wild card weekend. Your thoughts?" Yes, and also they're proposing to move it to 17 games instead of a 16-game schedule with 3 less preseason games. I love all of that. I think only one team should get a first round bye. That should be the team that finishes first in the conference. That's it. Everybody else should have to play. And I love the idea of having an extra game in the year. I think that's fantastic. So, and get rid of the stupid, who cares about preseason games? Get rid of those.
Yeah, totally.
Murray Reich also writes, "I've solved my issue with the straw in popcorn technique that got hot butter on my fingers. I basically just brought from home a wider straw, the kind you see at ice cream shops, and voila, no issues anymore, except for the unhealthiness, but who cares? Listen, the movies, the calories don't count at the movie theaters.
This is true.
Every fitness professional will tell you that. Calories do not count at the movie theaters.
It's just science.
So it's science. Yeah. It's absolute science. So you soak that popcorn in that butter and you enjoy every last moment of it. Hey, listen, I'm now a little bit of a ninja with it, so I can use the tiniest straw and I can get it in the hole and it goes down perfectly. And it's, you know what I meant.
I was laughing at a joke someone told me last week.
Oh yeah, okay. So anyway, I can make sure the stream of butter gets into the opening of the straw, and
he's drinking the butter. Y'all drink the butter?
No, have you ever been to a movie with John when
technique?
he gets his popcorn and he does his butter trick?
We didn't get popcorn.
For those of you who don't know, like, to me, popcorn is but a butter delivery device. That's what popcorn is. So the big problem has always been, of course, that you get your popcorn, you put butter on it, you've only got the top layer of popcorn has butter. Once you get through that top layer, you just got dry butter or dry popcorn, right? So what I do is I take a straw, stick it on the nozzle of the butter dispenser, then push the straw to near, not to the bottom of the bag, but near the bottom of the bag, and start, distributing butter down towards the bottom of the bag. And then I start to move the bag down. And then, so now you have nice, even distribution of butter throughout the bag.
Just get a medium popcorn, but ask for a big bag and then shake it.
But that doesn't always do it. It does. I've tried it too. I've taken it. I've asked him, "Can you just fill it up for me halfway?" And then they fill it up for halfway. I go put butter on it, shake it. Now fill it up the rest of the way. They fill up the rest of the way. Just not as good. I just find the straw technique just works a little bit better for me.
You are damn lucky that I was never working at the movie theater when you asked me that, because I'd be like, no, I'm not fulfilling your weird butter fetish half bag full. I got other people to take care of.
This is America. He earned his butter.
I don't like to make other people stay in line longer, so I just like take the get out of the way, let the person behind me get their shot.
I'm a no butter girl.
So, and I'm a full-fledged butter.
You're a butter boy.
Butter. What did Chris Pratt say
on
Chris Pratt once said on Parks and Rec, they were asking him, "What's your favorite foods?" "Well, I like buttered popcorn, and I like buttered hot dogs, and I like butter this."
"I think my favorite food is butter."
"I think my favorite food is butter." That's like one of the greatest lines ever. And I'm like, yes, Andy
Logan
Dwyer
quotes that all the time. I married a skinny Andy Dwyer.
Like
basically.
that cook lady who's super racist.
What was her name?
What was her name? We forgot it. She's racist. It doesn't matter.
Paula Deen.
Paula Deen.
All right, let's move on here. Next one comes us from Jack Dries, who writes, "You said Call of the Wild might flop." Yeah, it looks like it is. Maybe I'm partially, although unintentionally, contributing. I'm seeing Impractical Jokers, the movie tonight. Stoked, but curious if it'll work in a film format. Ever seen the Impractical Joker show? Thoughts? Oh, I have. My buddy Ryan, if you guys have seen pictures of him, you're the one who everybody always thinks it's Ben Affleck in the pictures with me, but it's our friend Ryan. Whenever I go over to his house, that's what he's got on TV. I'm telling you, I could show up there at 2 in.the morning. I could show up there at 1 p.m. He's got Impractical Jokers on TV on like a loop. Yes, I have seen it. It's pretty clever. I mean, it's not my show, but it is pretty clever. I do want to be careful because I've had a few people write to me to say one of the guys from Impractical Jokers watches the show. So, yeah, but I gotta say, I don't know which one. I don't know. Oh, but I gotta say, Stone Cold Steve Austin has his own little interview show now. It's one of the most amazing things ever.
I would watch that.
And one of the episodes, and basically what it is, he goes to the airport, picks up the person who he's interviewing that week, and then just does crazy things with them Like he took the one guy. I think he took the guy from Impractical Jokers, and he got them in this big like wild looking Jeep car, and they were booting around town. And then he goes, now we're going to do this. And he points the Jeep. He's in Santa Monica, points the Jeep at the water and drives full blast into the water, only to then realize once they get into the water, it is a Jeep boat hybrid. And then all of a sudden this Jeep transforms into a boat, and they're balling around in this boat, this Jeep that's now a boat. And he just does, and then he takes them bowling with frozen turkeys. Then he takes them doing archery. And then he takes them to a long range thing with this big military cannon gun to blow up cars with. And he just does all these interviews with them. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen, and I absolutely love it. I can't get enough
of it. Sounds like a fun show.
Anyway, let's see here. Glenn Tracy writes, one of two. To your point about movies touching people in different ways, that sounded wrong. The first Land Before Time movie was my favorite cartoon growing up, and for me was cry time every time. I love this movie so much that my fiance wants to have the song Diana Ross, If We Hold On Together, as our first dance song. Also, the first Homeward Bound movie fueled my love for dogs. To my shock, my fiance had never heard of either movie. It just shows how individuals we can be so wrapped up in our own bubble. Oh, man, it's true. It's true. We as fans, particularly as movie fans, we can be wrapped up in our own little bubbles. Like me and my friends watch this, so we just assumed everybody watched this.
Right.
And that's true. We all have that. But it also speaks to how profoundly these movies can have an emotional impact with us that then stays with us for our entire lives. And that, like, I was never a Land Before Time guy. I admit I was never a Land Before Time guy. But my wife, I mean, she almost gets teary-eyed when she thinks about it. She just loves that movie so much. I know so many people do. Do you guys have any movies like that are just like they impacted you earlier on in life, and there's just a place in your heart for it, for like, obviously me is Star Wars. I mean, that's obviously the thing for me. But do either of you guys have movies like that?
Heck yeah, Muppet Treasure Island, man. Like, the Muppets, like, really impacted me and made me want to do, like, this is a career. I would watch Kermit on Sesame Street. I wanted to be a journalist because he was a reporter. And then I watched...
First cinematic universe, by the way.
Yeah.
First shared cinematic universe was Sesame Street and Muppet.
And then watching the Muppet movies, like the Muppet Treasure Island, my parents, like, jerry-rigged a little TV with a VCR attached to it, one of those old, like, tiny guys that they, like, somehow got an adapter for our cigarette lighter in our car, and I would just watch the tape of Muppet Treasure Island over and over and over again while we were driving from Virginia to Texas when we moved. And I learned every word. I knew every commercial that happened before the movie, and I was obsessed with it. And also, Glenn Tracy, I'm so in love with you. You're so pure, and dancing that song's gonna be beautiful, and your fiance is perfect. I want to go cry.
Do you have one, Erin?
Mine was Rocky Horror Picture Show.
You've told me that before.
I
That's right.
love that movie. I had the poster on my wall. I had the soundtrack that I listened to every day on my walks around the forest because I lived in the middle of nowhere. I watched my VHS tape more times than I even care. I know all the songs by heart. I can do the time warp if you ask me to at any moment. I will drop everything and do the time warp. I think it's a fantastic film, and I love it.
Oh, we both were inspired by Tim Curry in very different ways.
Very different ways. But it's also, I mean, it was like when we went to see The Lion King, and without even realizing it, all of a sudden, when little baby Lion King gets raised up, we're both just. I mean,
I was emotional. Yeah.
I mean, like, we're sobbing in the movie theater, and just because all of those memories rush back, and that's what I try to tell Tom when he talks about certain films like Star Wars, that he just has such a visceral emotional reaction to. I'm like, right, but where were you? How old were you when you first saw that movie? I'm sure that if I saw that movie at that age, I might have the same kind of emotional reaction, but being introduced to it as an adult, it's a different situation.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I thought Rocky Horror Picture Show was like Rocky fighting zombies. Like like seriously, I thought like Rocky Horror Picture Show it's a movie with the Rocky with and that's what I thought.
Oh, bless.
No,
The young Susan Sarandon. There's a light over at the Frankenstein.
All right, Sam O'Neill writes, Heads up, new season of The Chef Show. Oh, I love this show. New season of The Chef Show is out on Netflix
What is
with
The
John.
Chef Show?
Oh,
Oh,
okay. I was like,
good.
with
Is that
John,
like the chef for the Muppets?
No, with John Favreau, and one episode has Sam Raimi and is very entertaining. Highly recommend. Okay, so if you don't know what Chef is, okay, so you know John Favreau did that movie Chef where he's like a food truck chef. Okay,
Mhm. Yes.
so he made a television series called Chef, where basically it's hard to explain, but every week it's just him with the guy,
Roy Choi.
this celebrity. What's his name again?
Chef Roy Choi.
Roy
I
Choi.
love Roy Choi.
Yes. So
I've
who
met
was
him.
his consultant?
nice.
Who was his consultant when he was doing the Chef movie? And every week they have a different celebrity on with them, and they just talk about adventures in food and they cook something. One of the great ones they did in season 1 was they had Tom Holland and I almost said Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr., and they were in this restaurant trying all these different types of food and telling stories. He had one with
Gwyneth Paltrow?
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yep.
When Gwyneth Paltrow was on it, and like John Favreau starts. First of all, it was really fun. But John Favreau brings up, like when we were in Spider-Man together. She goes, "I wasn't in a Spider-Man movie." He goes, "Yeah, you were. I was there." Really? And she's like, they all just kind of start to blend together. But it's hilarious.
funny.
The show is what he's had
So
Bill
good.
Burr on there.
I
He's
love
had
Bill Burr.
He's had a whole ton of people. So I saw, and Anne is obsessed with this show.
I
Absolutely obsessed.
think I'm gonna
with
be
it.
obsessed with it
you
as well.
will
So
be
good.
obsessed
It's
with
so
it.
good.
Well, Roy Choi, for people who don't know, he is the genius behind the food truck revolution. He basically took food trucks from being roach coaches to being gore.
coaches.
I mean, that's what we called them.
I
And
didn't.
all
I've never
of-
heard that phrase.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
That's funny.
Oh yeah, that's what they were. It was just like you're gonna get a burger of questionable meat substance, and then all of a
Questionable
sudden,
meat substance.
you're seeing food trucks that are gourmet food trucks, and you've got the grilled cheese food truck and the Korean bibimbap food truck. And Roy Choi is really the guy who made that happen. And he had the Line Hotel downtown LA, and we went there for brunch. I had just finished chemo, and if anybody's gone through chemo, you know that there's like the wave where you lose all your taste buds and all this kind of crazy stuff happens, and then eventually your taste buds come back after like a week or so because they're really fast replicating cells. So my mom and my aunt had come in for like one of my last chemo treatments, and my taste buds had just come back. So they were like, okay, it's the first day your taste buds are back, where do you want to go? And we went to Roy Choi's restaurant, and I was
Awesome
talking to
choice.
the server about him, and he came back later and he goes, by the way, he's over there, and if you want to go talk to him, he's really cool. And I went up to him and I had like tears in my eyes, and I was like, I just want you to know that I just finished chemo and this was my first meal back. And like he started crying and I started crying, and I was like, thank you, Roy Choi, for giving me such an amazing meal to enjoy. That guy is awesome.
He's incredible. Logan and I
He's
spent our wedding anniversary in Vegas just so we could go eat at Best Friends when it opened up.
Really?
Really?
I love that place. And he's so nice. I met him at a Binging with Babish book tour thing, and he was so cool. He's so chill. Oh, you'll love this show.
Watch
So, okay.
Chef.
And where can we watch
It's
it?
Netflix, right?
Netflix.
It's
Yeah.
on
Okay.
Netflix, and apparently it's the third season. It's so fun, guys. If you haven't checked it out, do go check it out.
Sweet.
Take Sam O'Neill's advice and check that out. Okay, Nathan Keto writes, "Hey John, I was wondering if you've seen the Hollywood Reporter round." Somebody else just asked this, Nathan. The Hollywood Reporter roundtable with all the major studio executives, Tom Rothman and Alan Horn, talk about the recent Spider-Man situation. Very interesting. Would love to hear yourself and Rob's takes on the vid. I have not watched it yet. I'm going to try to watch it over the weekend sometime. It does look. I would love to find out how they even pulled that off. How did they pull that video together? Because getting all those studio heads together in the same place for like one conference, I gotta watch it for a million different reasons, and I cannot wait. All right, Jordan Marshall writes, hey, John, do you believe that Tiger Woods has had the greatest comeback in sports history? No. From being the greatest golfer of all time to him saying that he may never play golf again, and then in 2018 winning the PGA Masters, your thoughts? No, I think it was an incredible story. Him, after everybody had written him off, for him coming back to win the Masters. The reason I will not call it the greatest comeback in sports history is because it was one weekend. It was one weekend. Now, if he had come back and won like 3 majors in a row after that, I would probably call it the best comeback ever. But because it was like one weekend where he was right on his game and pulled off the highly improbable. It was great theater. But I personally wouldn't call it the greatest sports comeback of all time. Not yet. Not yet, I wouldn't. All right. Fabian Vegas writes, over under 40% that within the next 12 years we'll get a U.S. remake of Parasite. Two things. 5 years in Hollywood is an eternity. 5 years in this town is an eternity. 10 years is as deep as time and space can even be perceived. I mean, it's just that forever and for that long. We're already getting a live action, I believe it's on HBO, live action North American version of Parasite, which Bong Joon-ho is going to be the executive producer of. Okay. So that's already happening. So over under 40% in the next 12 years, I got to go over on that. Jay Meister writes, Peter and Thor need to have a weight off montage. It would be awesome, guys. If they start off Guardians of the Galaxy 3 with like this big music, like with Survivor playing in the background of Thor. And what I would love for it to do is, all right, we're going to have a challenge getting into shape. And it's like you see Peter Quill doing all these workouts, blah, blah. And literally Thor goes off for 5 minutes, comes back, and he's back to his Thor body. And he's like, I am a god.
Yeah.
And like that would just be like, but a musical montage of both of those guys trying to get back into shape.
I just want him using Andy Dwyer's line of, I just stopped drinking beer. How much beer were you drinking? A lot.
A lot.
Chris Evans actually said in an interview that he thought when he was working out for Captain America that he was looking in the mirror and he was like, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. He said, and then all of a sudden Chris Hemsworth came into the gym and started lifting next to him. He was like, yeah, never mind. I'm not feeling so great about myself anymore.
Lift more.
But interestingly enough, we were having a conversation recently about Robert Pattinson being really small for Batman. Tom and I were watching Cabin in the Woods recently, and Chris Hemsworth is not a big dude in that. Like, there's a scene where they're all jumping in the lake.
He's bigger than normal, but not what we think of him as.
No, he's a fit guy. Like, if you'd never seen him as Thor, you'd go, okay, yeah, like he's got a fit body, but he's more on the like slender side. He's definitely not what we see as superhero. So I feel like if Robert Pattinson continues in his Batman, if he continues and does several of these, he's probably going to put on some bulk for the next one.
Yeah, I think he's already put on a lot of
bulk.
Oh, he's definitely
looked in the
bigger.
first X-Men? Y'all remember how Hugh Jackman looked in the first X-Men? Like,
yeah, when you go back and look at it now, you're like,
Yeah.
really? And then he got like super ripped.
Yeah. So I think that the transition of Robert Pattinson from number one Batman, from the Batman to the next Batman, which is probably what they'll call it, he's going to put on some massive weight.
Coming to theaters soon. The next
Batman.
All right, two more questions before we let these guys go, because we've already kept them overtime here. James Rell writes, it's my birthday. Happy birthday, James. I hope you have a great one, James. I like your Costanza when you rant. I was in the pool. The pool was cold. All right. Mastez Man writes, and happy birthday again, James. Writes, besides For the Gentleman, which I loved, besides For the Gentleman, there hasn't been any really good movies since the year started. And I love going to the movies so often, and it's just been very abysmal. I think March will finally kick it in. You know what's interesting? Let me bring up the release schedule here. Let me go over to Box Office Mojo. I'll go over to the calendar. And what do we got? So we've got The Boy 2, which I honestly don't think looks that good. We've got Call the Wild, which I don't think as soon as you CGI'd that dog, I've checked out. So I have no interest in that. We have, what do we got coming up? We've got
Greed looks fun.
The Invisible Man, which I'm going to see next week.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm going to go to a press screening because I don't go to many press screenings anymore, but I saw the invitation for Invisible Man come in. I'm like, I do want to see that because I think the trailers have been great. So that looks like it could be pretty good. What else do we got here? Oh, and then, yeah, you're right. In March kicks off with Ben Affleck's new film, The Way Back, which I am completely down. I cannot wait to watch that movie. Then you got Onward in March, which I think is going to be amazing. That's the new Pixar film. That looks amazing. I have no idea what First Cow is, so I think it's a wide release. Maybe it's a documentary. I don't know. Let's see. Then My Spy, which looks absolutely. I love Dave Bautista, but that movie looks just terrible. The Hunt. What else we got? Bloodshot. So it has been not a great year so far. Again, The Gentleman, though. Have you guys got anything that you've seen this year that has really stood out to you that you loved, or anything that's coming up really quickly that you're really got your eyes on?
I just want to see The Invisible Man. I feel like we've been talking. I feel like the first trailer for that came out 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, how is this movie not out yet?
I want to see it, but I hate scary movies, so I have to go like to a matinee when no one's there so I can scream. I cry at everything. Y'all, when they were sending those little gifs of Georgie, his arm being waved around by Pennywise, I would cry every time someone sent me a stupid little. I'm such a wimp.
I will hold you and nuzzle you against my.
I think
I need to be cradled the whole time.
I think it looks great. I thought the first trailer gave too much away, but other than that, I think the trailer was great. Like showing that moment where she like dumps water on him and goes, "There you are."
Yeah.
I'm like, why did you show that in the trailer? Like, that's literally like the third act.
The moment where
that
she's standing outside and then he just breathes on
that
her
was
neck.
awesome.
That's horrible. When we saw the paint thing, though, Logan and I were watching the trailer, and he goes, "Just carry flour in your pockets. Why is everyone so stupid?" And just walks away. And I was like, then there wouldn't be a movie.
Yeah,
I really hope though that they don't do the Stranger Things thing about the breathing on the neck, because I swear that little kid, every 5 seconds he'd be like, "Oh, there's something on my neck," and I'm like, can't we just show the back of his neck with some goosebumps? Does he have to grab the back of his neck every time the thing is gonna?
Yeah, Aaron, it's called acting. So
I'm still trying to learn.
All right, guys. Hey, listen, we've taken Aaron and Chris well past their time, so we got to let them go. But guys, in the meantime, Aaron, where can people find you online?
Oh, you can find me at Aaron L. Cummings, and you can find little Joey Bishop, who's still asleep in your little doggy bed, at Rat Pat Cats.
And Chris, where can people follow you in your adventures online?
all over the internet. I'm at actor Chris Carr on both Twitter and Instagram, and you can see my videos over on Nerdwire. I'm talking about Sonic forever.
And guys, thank you so much for being here, and we'll have the two of you back next week. And Aaron, I think we'll see you tomorrow.
Yes.
So, all right, guys, thanks a lot for being here. We'll talk to you guys later. All right, for the rest of you guys, we still got about 10 or 15 minutes here left, so let's keep right on rolling with your questions. Let's see. Jesse writes, bummed out when I remembered the original release date for The Last of Us 2 was this Friday. That's right. And they were supposed to be, I think, debuting some gameplay. I think it was at PAX West or something, or PAX, whatever it's called. They were going to actually bring things where people there could actually play the game, but now they're not. Anyway, Last of Us 2 release date was this Friday. Now we have to wait 3 more months, and it might even be longer than that. I'm hearing that it could get pushed again, but if they needed time, I'm glad they took time to make it the best it can be. I don't know that there's a more highly anticipated game than Last of Us 2 right now. I think right now that might be the most anticipated game. Or Warcraft Reforged. Wow. Anyway, that might be the most anticipated game, but I again, I'm going to say don't get your hopes too high, because I'm hearing that it might even be delayed another couple of months after that, but hopefully it won't be. We'll have to wait and see. All right, Russell Amador writes, "Hey John, the child animatronic Baby Yoda by Hasbro has been revealed, and it looks amazing. It comes with the little creature it ate, like the little frog thing, in one of the earlier episodes. It'll be landing this fall. Looks like a must-have. I'm sure Anne already loves the product. Maybe. I know nothing about it." Anne actually does not talk to me a lot about her job, because, I mean, a lot of the stuff she does at her job is supposed to be, until it's made public, is supposed to be proprietary information. And despite what you may think, Anne does not come home and talk to me a lot about her job. She's not supposed to, and she doesn't. I don't ask her stuff about it. So I remember when she first started working at Hasbro and they were making the Star Wars toys, and she had to go out to like Skywalker Ranch because they were in the early development stages of the toys. And she saw all the storyboards for the Star Wars movie long before any of us knew what was coming in it. And Anne just kind of teased me once, "I know everything about the new Star Wars movie." I'm like, "I'm never going to ask you," because she couldn't tell me anything, right? So that's the whole to say. I didn't even know about it. But now that you mention it, Russell, now I got to go see if I can check it out. All right, Unicorn Mall writes, "Epic 80s training montage for Fat Thor and Quill." We were just talking about that. I think that would be really fun if they did something like that. All right, Michael Mihik writes, "I remember asking you if you thought ScarJo was going to get nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and we both thought she deserved to. So glad she did." Yeah, but I didn't think she would. I honestly didn't think she would. But I was so glad she did get the nomination. What a year, Michael, for ScarJo. I mean, at the Academy Awards, very, very rarely it happens. She was nominated for both Best Lead Actress for Marriage Story and nominated for Best Supporting Actress in the same year for Jojo Rabbit. Unbelievable year. I don't know how she tops it next year. All right, Tiffany Hoffman writes, the Blacklist was renewed for season 8 and the rest of season 7 returns on March 20th. Yeah, I keep up with the Blacklist. And I remember thinking, oh, I must be a couple of episodes behind now. And I went to the NBC app to check on it. And it's like, there's still been no new episodes. All right. So I guess they're taking a pretty long hiatus. So season 7 returns on March 20th. Good to know. I have been keeping up with the show. I don't watch a lot of TV. Blacklist has been one that I've really enjoyed. They've had better seasons. They've had a weak season or two here and there, but overall I really enjoy the show. James Spader's fantastic in it. And Erin was one of the feature people on one of the episodes. She was one of the feature co-stars in one episode of Blacklist last year. So you should go see Erin on that show. All right. Ryan DG writes, fun fact. I just rewatched Ghostbusters 2 and I noticed that they barely wore their dark blue uniforms, which was on the main movie poster. Well, at least it was on. I listen, it's been a long time since I've seen Ghostbusters 2 because I've got to admit, I'm not a big fan of Ghostbusters 2. I'm not a big fan of it. But hey, as long as they at least at some point have them on in the movie, then you can at least say that. So yeah, so go with that. I think as long as they at least at some point had it on the movie, then it's okay that they put it on the movie poster. When it usually bothers me is when there's stuff in the poster that is never in the movie. War for the Planet of the Apes, anybody? Like everything in that marketing campaign was barely in the movie at all. But anyway, that's just me. All right, Jesse writes, as a super fan of Uncharted, I still find myself not being able to get behind this movie. Hopefully that will change when we get a trailer. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, look, I've had lots of movies. For instance, me with Matrix 4. I am not interested in Matrix 4 right now. Matrix 2 and 3 were major declines in quality. I didn't like any or hardly anything and some things I purely hated that the Wachowskis did after Matrix. So right now I don't feel any excitement for Matrix 4, but I'm like you. Keep my fingers crossed. Hopefully once I start seeing like actual trailers and footage that hopefully I do get excited. So yeah, I am down with this Uncharted movie. I am excited for it, but I could totally see why somebody wouldn't be yet. So let's all just hope that once the trailers start coming out, that they get us all on board. All right, Daniel Rahim writes, where are we at here? There we are. You say that Chris Pratt is saying that everybody from the original Jurassic Park is coming back. We know that Neil, Dern, and Goldblum are coming back. So that only leaves the 2 kids from the original. Is that pretty much it? Everybody else died. Well, then you had I'm forgetting the name of the actor, the Asian doctor there, but he's already been back. He was in the last Jurassic World movie. So there's that. Yeah, maybe the kids. It'd be great to have both the kids back again. That would be, I'm trying to think of like Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel Jackson did survive the original film, right? Did he? Or did he not? Oh, now I can't remember if Samuel Jackson survived the original one. Why am I forgetting on it? I love this movie. I can't remember if he survived or not. So that was Daniel Rahim. Let's see. Jordan 18 writes, why don't viewers watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. more? Because it's a terrible show. It's very underrated. It's one of those shows that consistently gets better each season. Yeah. I mean, listen, just like movies, it's subjective. That means some people are going to like it and some people won't. And if you like it, that is awesome. I desperately wanted to like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because not only was it MCU, but I love Clark Gregg. I am a big fan of Clark Gregg. I love this dude. But unfortunately, aside from Agent Coulson and Clark Gregg being in the show, I just never liked the show. They had their moments. They did. But I have... Overall, I think the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show was, it was a wasted opportunity to do something really great with Clark Gregg and his character. I thought it was mostly nonsensical. I thought characters I just could not get into. I just thought it was a bad show. And I kept watching it. Just hoping it would get good at some point. And like I said, there were moments. There were moments that it was enjoyable. But I then finally, I never did watch the last season. Like I just gave up on it. I finally just couldn't take it anymore. I tapped out. I couldn't take it anymore. So why don't some of us watch it? Because some of us think it's a really terrible show, but some of you really love it. And that's awesome. That's awesome that you do. But I wish I did, but I simply don't. All right. Brandon Plummer writes, get Will Smith back on and call it Veterans Day. I mean, getting Will Smith in there won't make the movie any better. It might make it a little bit more intriguing, but it's either a good movie or it's not, despite whatever actors you put in there. But I like the idea, Brandon, and you play with it and call it Veterans Day. I dig it. But you can't bring him back because remember they said in Independence Day 2 that his character died. But then again, this is the movies. You can always say, actually, he survived and nobody realized he survived. Murray Reich writes, The Blacklist got renewed for 8th season. Somebody was just mentioning that. I like the series and all, but how much can they keep going already? There's more to tell after the Katarina storyline. Listen, I am perfectly good. The Blacklist is both a serial and a procedural, right? Usually a lot of shows are either the big overall story, like Breaking Bad. Sometimes they're episode by episode, like Murder Mystery of the Week shows. That's fine too. Blacklist is very much a combination of both. I got to tell you, while I like the overarching story of Blacklist, I am also a big fan just of the weekly Blacklist person they got to take down. I'm actually a big fan of it. So even if the Katarina storyline is done and they're kind of put away the big overarching storyline, I'm perfectly good with a week-by-week show for Blacklist just because I love the characters so much and I love their execution. So I'm totally down for it personally. All right, John Ashford writes, speaking of Doc Savage, do you think characters like the Shadow and Phantom can come back to film? Love the show. First time comment. Thanks for writing that in, John. Yeah, they could. Somebody else just actually asked the other day about the Phantom. Phantom would be a little bit more challenging, I think, today for a bunch of societal reasons. But I think Phantom would be a little bit more challenging. The Shadow, I think, is very much could as well. So, listen, in a world where we have so many movies come out now and so many streaming networks are coming into existence and there's such a high demand for content, that will put a premium on recognizable IPs. And at some point, I think somebody's going to have to sit down and relook at the IPs of Phantom is a little bit more iffy, but definitely The Shadow. By the way, I love Eric Baldwin's The Shadow with Ian McKellen. The Shadow knows. I unabashedly love that movie. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I love that movie. All right, 50 Shades of Geek writes. Nope, we're not going to answer that. All right, Scooter Mattoon writes, Scooter Mattoon just sends in a super chat. Thank you for that. Ronan writes, watched unedited A3 scene when Bruce and Hulk work things out. Great. Also, how would you feel about I don't know what SW is. Doctor Strange, guys, please don't use short form or acronym when you write it in because, anyway. Adam Warlock causing mystical mayhem. Magnus is the main antagonist. That would be horror. Well, I mean, look, we talk about this all the time, Ronan. It doesn't matter what concept you come up with. Concept doesn't make the movie. I mean, I know that's what a lot of people think and have said for years, and I thought that for a long time, that concept, the basic idea, is what makes the movie. And I've realized, no, it doesn't. You can have the greatest idea and concept for a film. It's meaningless. It's all about, what I've come to believe is that it is all about execution. That's what it's really all about. It's all about execution. Because you guys have heard me use the, heard me use the example of Lego Movie before, but it's true. The concept of a Lego movie is so utterly stupid, but it is because the execution was done so right. It's one of the most delightful, wonderful movies I've ever seen. I mean, the original Lego movie is just pure delight. I love that movie. Stupid concept, though. Then you get movies that have great concepts, but they turn out terrible because it's all about execution. So yeah, you can set up these concepts, Ronan, like, oh yeah, you get Doctor Strange with Adam Warlock and do this and maybe have Magus and do blah, blah. Okay, but it ultimately doesn't matter. All that matters is, does it get executed well? And I've really come to believe, and maybe this is a little nihilistic of me, but I've really come to believe that anything, any idea can be a great movie. Any idea can be a great movie. That's where I came up with Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone. Any idea can be a great movie if executed right. And any idea, no matter how glorious it is, can turn out to be a big bag of crap movie, depending on the execution. So I found myself not really getting all that excited about the notion of a movie as much as I used to, because I've realized the notion of a movie, the originating concept, ultimately doesn't really matter. It all comes down to, do you write a compelling script with the right production people behind it and get the right director in the director's chair who's got a vision for telling this story in a certain way, and then get the right performers involved with it to bring it to life and blah, blah, blah. That's where all the magic happens. But in pure concept, a Doctor Strange with an Adam Warlock and stuff, you got me. Sure. But but it all depends. So I tend not to get too terribly excited one way or the other over that stuff now. All right. Finding Neo writes, have you seen the trailer for Guns Akimbo? Yes, it's fantastic. I was late to that party. I remember a few people last week saying, John, have you seen this trailer yet? I'm like, no, I haven't watched it yet. And then I watched it like, oh my God, this is crazy. I really like what I'm seeing. All right, final question of the day comes to us from Double Crit, who writes, Sonic had the most hype mid-credit scene, in my opinion. I don't know. I did tell people coming out saying, look, if you're not a big fan of Sonic in general, you don't need to stick around for the mid-credit scene. But if you are a big fan of Sonic in general, you are definitely going to need to stick around for the mid-credit scene. Here's the thing. It's only hype if you are a well-versed in the lore of Sonic the Hedgehog, which I think is a limited number of people. But if you are one of those people, it is a crazy exciting mid-credit scene. If you're not, it's going to mean nothing to you. It's not going to mean anything to you if you're not an already well-established in the lore of Sonic. Both kind of mid-credit scenes, I feel that way. But if you do know it, you're going to be very, very hyped for it. You're going to be very hyped for it. All right, guys. That will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you guys for being here and making this a part of your day. It is awesomely honoring that you guys would choose to take time out of your day to hang out here with me and your fellow film fans to talk movies and stuff like that. That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks to, of course, Chris Carr and Aaron Cummings, and of course, Joey Bishop, who I love and adore, for being here. And a special thanks to all you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, because you supported the channel while you were doing it. And all of us here on the channel, thank you very much for that. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here. My name is John Campea, guys. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.